Good evening. I'm David Smith. This is Week in Review. Tonight we'll be discussing the decline in the Muslim birth rate around the world, its cultural, economic, and sociological causes. We'll also be discussing the national infrastructure and another failure to address that issue by the administration and the Congress. Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to Week in Review. I'm here with our co-host, Eric Hoffman, who is in San Diego, California. Also, our audiovisual engineer and director, Daniel Moran, who is in the studios with me in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And we'd like to begin this episode with a new tradition, which I think I'm going to institute, of playing the national anthem at the beginning of each episode. I'd like to remind all of our viewers that you can reach us at Twitter hashtag WIRTV and also at David, Daniel, or Eric at weekinreview.tv. We'd be happy to hear any of your comments, suggestions, criticisms, observations. So please contact us and engage us with us in the conversation. 3 news items I'd like to cover just briefly. The first one is regarding Representative Michelle Bachmann. This is also touching upon the National Defense Authorization Act, a provision in it. This act has gained a great deal of attention because of the provisions that provide for the elimination of posse comitatus. But there's also a provision which would eliminate Article 125 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which prohibits sodomy and bestiality in the armed services. Representative Bachmann seems to be terribly concerned and outraged that this provision is being removed from the Uniform Code of Military Justice. And we have a link connecting an article in our topic section that you can view. The second item is Governor Rick Perry of Texas, also a presidential candidate, has issued an ad that was critical of gays and lesbians, and he has received, I believe as of this morning, about 300,000 negative responses to that ad, which was posted to Facebook. And they they've shut down the comment section on the web page because there were so many negative comments that they couldn't handle them all. So there's also a link on our topics page for you to view that video. And I'd also recommend that you look online for the interview that Governor Perry did with Wolf Blitzer, attempting to justify this rather unnecessary and personally I feel ridiculous ad. The third item is an interesting event. If any of you are up early this morning, this is going to be a full lunar eclipse. We don't get them often in North America. Not a full lunar eclipse because they're generally closer to the equator, but this time we'll actually be able to see it. And what is so unique about it, it very rarely, if ever, happens. We will see the sun and the moon at the same time that the eclipse is happening. And that's not supposed to happen because the Earth is supposed to be in direct alignment between the sun and the moon, causing the eclipse. However, because of a strange phenomenon which is going to occur, we'll be able to see both. We've connected a link in our topics section. This event occurs because of the delay of the sunlight and the moonlight reaching the Earth, and also because of atmospheric distortion. So it appears that both the sun and the moon are above the horizon at the same time, when in reality the moon has actually set. So this is a very rare event, and if you're out in California, as Eric is, if you look out to the northwest, you'll actually be able to see both the sun and the moon at the same time. Unfortunately, here in Arkansas, we have mountains in the way, so we're not going to get to see it. But if you're out in California or out in the western part of the country, and you're inclined to do so, go outside and take a look. It's a really rare event, and there probably won't be another one in our lifetime, certainly. So take advantage of this opportunity. Well, tonight I've decided, since I have for the last 9 episodes chosen the topics that we're going to discuss, to allow both Eric and Daniel to choose a topic that they would each be interested in discussing. Which one of you wants to go first? I want, before we go, to talk about 2 items that I thought were rather interesting. They were kind of strange reports. First of all is a report from Medicare that there has been a great deal of fraud with the provision of a particular prosthetic device for men, which Medicare covers. Apparently, over the last 10 years, there has been a $250 million of fraud with regards to penis pumps. Now, I thought this article was rather interesting because we're trying to figure out how to save money on Medicare, and some of this waste apparently is what is at issue. And I thought that was a rather interesting article. I thought it was also interesting because we don't seem to be able to come up with funds for breast cancer research, cervical cancer research, but we seem to have plenty of money for Viagra and penis pumps. So, if you gentlemen wouldn't mind, can we address this real quickly? What are your thoughts about this? This is kind of
I guess, like you were saying earlier, most congressmen and senators are old bad, so they're putting the money where their
own self-interest is.
Oh dear.
That's which kind of explains some other thing. Apparently, they're thinking with the wrong head. So.
It's too bad they didn't do a study about how well this worked out, this distribution of fetus pumps. I mean, is it working for the people they gave it to or not?
Well, I don't know. That was not in the report.
Yeah.
You
think they'd do some follow-up on this?
Yeah, we've got a connection to this article in the topic section as well, which will break down the amount of money that was spent. Also, the number of people who received them and so on. It just seems there was the really outrageous part that I found in the article was the fraud and corruption involved with it. Apparently, there was a doctor who was going online and buying these devices from a adult's website, adults only website, for $24.95, and then repackaging them, providing them to his patients and clients, and charging Medicare $267 for each one.
Maybe we should go on Michelle Bachmann's campaign page over at Facebook and have her comment on this.
Have her comment on this? Yeah, well, she's worried about the cavalry running wild. So
yeah.
I guess maybe that's a subject she could deal with there on that particular.
Yeah.
But I found that rather odd. I found that very strange.
Well, I think Rick Perry and Bachmann's campaigns are both going down the drain, so now they're sort of flailing around, picking up any issues. So
any issues they can.
I think maybe we should feed this over. If she has a Facebook page, we could put this as a question on there for her.
Here's a question for both of you and for our viewers. Between these two candidates, who are both in the fundamentalist, dominionist Christian camp, those particular types of Christians who believe that they have to take over the world and get it ready for the second coming of Christ by taking over government institutions and so on and turning them into essentially vehicles of Christian dominionism. They keep bringing up these absolutely ridiculous issues. And it had occurred to me this afternoon that perhaps they are preparing themselves, because neither one of them is going to get the Republican nomination, to present themselves as third-party candidates, put themselves on the same ticket, as third-party candidates for the dominionist and fundamentalist who feel that they are not being adequately or respectfully represented by the mainstream Republicans any longer. What do you think about that?
I don't even think their planning goes that deep. I think you're just watching two campaigns go down the drain.
Well, I thought it might be an interesting... of course, they probably would not go anywhere, but they would certainly draw off quite a few votes from the mainstream Republican Party if they did join together on a third-party ticket.
I think Bachmann might be getting herself ready for a run at Al Franken's Senate seat in a few years.
Could be.
Is what I would guess that her next step is.
But I just find these two candidates so bizarre. They seem to be concerned. In the Wolf Blitzer interview with Governor Perry regarding this anti-gay ad that he issued, the governor is saying that what he wants, it was not so much about gays serving in the military as it was about opposing Obama's anti-religious campaign. To which Wolf Blitzer responded that the president had just the day before lighted the national Christmas tree, and there were Christmas carols sung at the White House. So I don't know where the governor is getting his information about the supposed anti-religious bias of the administration.
Well, I found that that's a big thing that politicians are doing, that it's this dance that they're doing. You know, they give you part of the truth, not the whole truth or any context. So they provide the context, which makes any message that's put out there lean towards whatever goal they have in mind. In this case, they're ignoring the fact that, you know, the lighting of the tree and all that, they're just ignoring it. They're giving you part of the truth, the part that they're interested in getting their point across, which is the same thing that happened during Thanksgiving, with not saying the prayer during the YouTube video, of all things.
Not mentioning God?
Yes.
During the, yes. Okay.
But he did in his speech. So, in his written, his written address.
Well,
they're just picking up what they want to listen to.
I think these two campaigns are just trying to grab a few headlines now. This sounds to me like both of them know they're not going to win.
Well, the media has expressed what they're interested in talking about back in Thanksgiving. So basically anything related to it will be news, and they've pretty much declared that to any politician.
Yeah.
Well, I just thought that was kind of an interesting perspective. They seem to be deliberately attempting to sabotage their run for the presidency. You know, they're not. Neither one of them is going to get the nomination. And,
well, I think for Bachmann, it probably will help her PAC, and like I said, she'll just turn it around for a run for Senate, all that money later on.
It could be. Well, anyway, I just thought I would bring that up because their behavior has been so eccentric.
So erratic.
Eccentric. Yeah. I'll be polite and say eccentric. Erratic is probably a better term.
Yeah.
But, okay. Well,
yeah.
I just wanted to briefly bring those up. Eric, what was it that you wanted to talk about tonight? I thought it was an interesting topic.
I'm reading a book by David Goldman, who writes under the pseudonym Spengler, which is interesting because I read Oswald Spengler's Decline of the West back when I was 16. And he's talking about the lower birth rates, especially in the Muslim world where you wouldn't expect it. And Iran has an extremely low birth rate of Persian speakers. So this is what his thesis is this going to make them more dangerous because if this birth rate continues, they're pretty much not going to have a country within 50 years.
Well, I've gotten an annual population growth rates chart provided by a research company, and yeah, they distinctly show a little graph here. We've got it up on screen. I know you can't see it, Eric, but between 1990 and 2000, Muslims had a 2.3% growth rate, and that has dropped between 2000 and 2010. They've down to 2.1%, and it's projected by 2030 that they'll be down to 1.4%, less than half of their growth rate.
Yeah, that's not going to provide enough workers for all the retirees they're going to have, all the elderly. I mean, we still basically live on the work of our children. We just live on the work. The retirees just live on the work of other people's children. And it's just surprising, in an Islamic country, because we all think of Islamic countries as the women having lots of kids, but it's just not the case. But I kind of agree that the mullahs, this is just going to make them more dangerous. They think that this is their last chance to, save Islam.
Well, I was reading an article, and it indicated that the more educated, the more health care provided, the more Western the country, the more exposure that the females in that country have. Despite their Islamic faith, they decline in fertility. The fertility rate declines. The birth rate declines.
Yeah, I mean, this is how much bigger of a rejection can you see of the Islamic Republic when people are refusing to have children? Talking about a rejection of your society, there can't be any more louder rejection of society than this.
Well,
so I think this is going to make the mullahs and Ahmadinejad even more dangerous, that they think they have to do something now to save their traditional society, because basically their young people are rejecting it. It's said in the loudest way possible. They're not giving them another generation.
Well, that's true. I also saw an interesting, I think among the women in Islam who are not, the families where there isn't education of the young women, the average number of children is 5. And in Islamic households where the mother or the female is educated, the birth rate is 2.3, about what it is, just a little bit higher than it is in Western Europe and America. But certainly it's a significant decline in countries like Iran, Iraq, even
Egypt.
Saudi Arabia, I think, is in trouble.
Yeah. Well, it seems, literacy is a killer for fertility.
Yeah, but my question is it really that? Is it really education and literacy and wealth that's causing the issue? Or is it something, well, I guess wealth would be my example. Is it really the economy that's causing it? I mean, we're feeling it here in the U.S., but it's a lot worse overseas. And, people of all classes, especially over in the Muslim countries where they definitely have a declared 1% that controls society. Maybe the economy is causing some of this.
Well, I would say yes, but I mean, in Somalia, where they basically have no economy, the birth rate's going through the roof.
Well, also this is not just recently. This is over.
No.
These have been tracked over 10-year periods. And the interesting thing is, it really is not dependent upon the religiosity of the people, whether they're secularists, non-observant Muslims, observant Muslims. It seems to be a downward trend, especially when among Muslims in European countries. The immigrants to France, Italy, Britain, when they have education, good health care, it just, the birth rate declines dramatically.
Yeah, and I just don't know what effect this is going to have on the thinking of the mullahs who want to, of course, preserve their traditional society. Their young people are rejecting it, like I said, in the loudest way possible. It's not providing hope.
Well, maybe this is there was a news story this week came out about a poor girl. Apparently she's been suffering for like 2 years now. She was basically raped by her her cousin's husband, I think. This was over in Afghanistan, I believe. And it took her a week, and she finally reported it. And they threw her in jail for adultery. And she had her kid in prison. She got pregnant by the rape. She had her kid in prison, and she's gotten enough publicity from her American lawyer and all that the judge has basically stated, you can get out of prison if you marry your rapist.
Yeah, this can't be helping.
you know, maybe that's what they're turning to. They'll turn to rape because the law apparently is going to back them up over there.
Yeah.
And allow them to continue and propagate their culture.
Well, Christianity and Judaism have proved to be religions that have been able to evolve with society, but I don't know if Islam can do it. Islam is basically this tribalism on a universal scale.
Here's another interesting factor that we need to consider in this issue of Islam and its declining birth rate. For example, in France, every year, 15,000 Muslims convert to Christianity. About 10,000 to Catholicism and 5,000 to other Protestant branches.
Yeah.
So they're losing their base also by conversion or just the wholesale abandonment of Islam for secularism.
Oh, yeah, I've heard there's more crypto-Christians probably in Iran than anywhere else in the world. Of course, no one can get any stats on that. But
No. Well, that's also been suspected in Jordan, where there's huge, many of those Arab Christians wound up going to Jordan during the period when the Israeli independence, the war for independence, and then the subsequent wars. So many of them were...
Yeah, this makes the question of dealing with the Islamicists even more tricky because everybody at first thought they were rational. I guess a lot of people did, but this is kind of like dealing with a gunman who knows he has a terminal disease in a bank that's holding hostages, you know.
That's true. You have a good point there.
He may have, he may have no interest in the future. He figures right now is all he's got.
Well, you know, they're saying that, or I've heard it said that these figures that are being put out are being put out by the, you know, that Islam has this huge birth rate, and where they're going to take over the world by, are false, and they're being propagated by the mullahs in order to boost Islam because they're losing so many. You know, through the birth rate, the attrition.
Yeah, I don't think Islam can do what Christianity did in the Reformation. I don't think it's possible. Because from what I understand of the religion, you might know more about this, David, the Koran is directly from God. It's not through prophets where it can be interpretation. It has to be as is.
That's right. That's right. There's no.
I mean, for Christians, Jesus is the Word of God made flesh, but it was just people who wrote it down, so we can say, well, maybe they, you know, did this
maybe
or
he
that.
meant this, maybe he meant that. It's open to various interpretations.
Yeah. But the Koran is kind of the, well, I guess to borrow a word from Spengler, from Goldman, the guy who wrote the book, the Islam is more or less the Word of God made paper. It's right there in front of you.
Yeah, because the Archangel Gabriel dictated it word for word to Muhammad. So it can't be changed.
So, yeah, there's no evolutionary potential in this at all. It's like the wife-beating passage. You can't get rid of it. It's right there in the surah on women.
Well, yeah, this is very interesting panel because we're diverse on multiple things. And, yeah, this is definitely one of the interesting things. Personally, I believe all religion ought to be gotten rid of. But because it just leads to many problems, extremists on both ends, and I don't know.
Unfortunately, yeah, we're dealing with like a tribal society with sophisticated weapons, you know.
Yep.
A tribal society that doesn't think they have any future.
Well, this is especially in the case of Islam because it's divided into two opposing factions. Sunni, which are the majority, they're about 90%, 87 to 90% of all Muslims in the world. And then the 10 to 12% who are Shia, and they're at war with one another. The only thing they agree on is they hate Israel.
Yeah.
That's the only thing they ever agree on.
Yeah, if you want to make the Iranians even more paranoid. As a matter of fact, I just saw on the news ticker today they're celebrating the murder of Hassan today. When they split from the Sunnis.
Mm-hmm.
I forget, was it in Karbala? Was it?
Yeah,
that
Karbala in Iraq. Yeah.
Yeah. That the Shiites are celebrating one of their biggest holidays of the year right now. And yeah, it's all, like I said, talk about a paranoid minority. I mean, not that we'd care, except that they're going to have nuclear weapons any minute.
Yeah, it's if they don't already have them, which is
this that Hillary Clinton and others think that we can deal with Iran as a rational country is probably not a well-founded assumption.
There's an interesting point. Did you hear Secretary Clinton's statement to some United Nations gathering that the United States is going to make it a policy to make its foreign aid dependent on a nation's acceptance of gay rights and promotion?
We can't.
Yeah, I did hear that.
I heard that. I was thinking, how is this going to work with Bahrain, where the Fifth Fleet is headquartered, or Saudi Arabia, from whom we receive our oil? How are they going to implement this?
Yeah, it's another thing where you shouldn't make statements you can't put up.
Yeah, because everyone was very happy to hear that here, but not thinking about how is this actually going to work out.
This is another instance of you shouldn't say things that you can't enforce. Not to mention all the African nations, Muslim nations that get aid from us.
Yeah, I found that when I heard that, it was like, that was a rather irresponsible thing to say.
Lesbians get to go, what, corrective rape, they call it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
and the men get stoned or beheaded, so, I just...
So we're gonna cut off aid to all these African nations, Kenya and Nigeria and all these countries, and Uganda, the country we have troops in. Like I said, this corrective rape is basically their formula for dealing with lesbians.
Well, I think this was an attempt by Clinton to, it's a political ploy, again, to bolster the administration's standing with the gay and lesbian vote, which...
Because Obama, the Democrats definitely need the gay and lesbian bloc to come out if they have any chance next election to retain anything.
Yes. Well, they're speculating that possibly Vice President Biden will not be Obama's running mate next election, but Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, I think that would even be bigger suicide.
Well, that will certainly bring out the conservative vote, if nothing else.
Yeah.
So,
I think that would be just a bigger suicide if he throws Biden under the bus. That'll even look like a bigger betrayal.
Yeah.
The person that Obama should get rid of is Eric Holder.
Well, yeah. Mr. I Know Nothing. The Sergeant Schultz of...
Yeah, the Sergeant Schultz of the administration.
It doesn't seem to know anything about this Fast and Furious or border.
He seems to know nothing about anything that happens in the Justice Department.
And this man's supposed to be our chief law enforcement officer.
Yeah.
In the nation. So.
I think the night janitor or the or probably the UPS guy that delivers there could tell you more what goes on in the Justice Department.
Well, it's just like, I don't know if either of you watched the hearings before the congressional hearings yesterday, where John Corzine appeared to explain where $1.5 billion of investors' money went when MF Global went bankrupt. And his answer was repeatedly, I don't know. I don't have the documents in front of me. I'm not aware of that.
He's known about that.
Yeah, we have another Sergeant Schultz. Yeah.
You're the CEO of this company. You were chairman of Goldman Sachs. You were governor of a state. How can you not know what's going on, especially when your company is going bankrupt? How can you not know that? Well, I don't know. This is just, the corruption is just so incredible.
Yeah. Well, I think your suggestion that maybe we should expand waterboarding to CEOs that have lost money for their companies might be a good suggestion.
Yeah, maybe they'd start remembering some of this stuff. If there was ever a case where waterboarding should be justified, it's in this. I'm sure he'd remember really fast.
Yeah.
About where that money is.
No, there's just no excuse for this I know nothing attitude. Even on the old Hogan's Heroes show, at least Colonel Clink thought he knew something.
Yeah.
He might have gotten a lot wrong, but thought he knew something. At least he didn't say, I know nothing when the powers that be came about.
No, well, that would have been, been off to the Eastern Front for that.
Yeah.
Briefly, I'd like to touch on something that relates to what we were talking about, fall in birth rates and so on in the Muslim. I think it's an issue that we are not addressing in our current economic crisis here in the United States, which is the issue of contraception and abortion in this country. We have killed 50 million of our own citizens, about 1 million a year, who could be working and paying taxes and paying into the Social Security system and Medicare, and we wouldn't be having these debates about drastic cuts that need to be made.
Yeah.
So I think there's an issue here that's, and of course it's happened in Europe. Their population has been drastically reduced by people not having children, and also by aborting the ones that they conceive, and they're managing to destroy their next generation. And so these economic problems that we're having are very much related to these policies that we have instituted, and did not think about the long-term consequences, and now it's come back to bite us.
Yeah, you're exactly on point. Like we said, the welfare state is just, and said the more things change, the more they stay the same. We still expect the children, the young adults, to support the elderly. We've just switched it to it's other people's children that support you.
Yeah, and so now we're...
we see how nuts like Paul Ehrlich and, unfortunately, John Holdren, who's in the Obama administration, were the population alarmists back some years ago.
Oh, yeah, these
David and I were growing up.
Malthusian Benthamites.
Yeah, the new neo-Malthusians were really crazy.
Well, that's why I don't believe this. We're a 7 billion figure that comes out from these neo-Malthusians at the UN, who have this death-worshipping cult that they have going on there. In fact, I once heard that the Earth could sustain 35 billion people quite comfortably. So this constant alarm over we're running out of resources, and You know, it's just nonsense.
Yeah, what we should be doing, of course, is looking terraforming Mars to expand. But yeah, we should encourage everybody to have as many children as they want or can.
Yeah, and then we'd be able to. By the way, did you gentlemen know the rover on Mars is still working? It's still working.
Yeah,
Yes, it was designed to work for 6 months. It's been working for 6 years. It's still up there,
yeah.
looking, moving around. You know, so we need to. You know, we keep coming back to this, but we need to get into space. You know, we need to be doing that.
No, you're right. That either you're a death-worshipping neo-Malthusian or you're pro-life and want to expand life. Think it's valuable enough that we should start expanding into outer space and everywhere else.
Yes, I agree. That's but that I found that very encouraging to hear that that was still up there working, and you know, we need to get our space exploration program back online.
Back up.
That will solve a lot of our economic problems. Speaking thereof, let's transition into what Daniel wanted to talk about, which is related to that. Our infrastructure and our technology, we're not developing them. And it's dumbing down our people, I think, because their talents are not being applied properly. You know, and we're not getting the scientific and technological development in the commercial sphere that we need to be having. So why don't you take it from there, Daniel?
From what I've learned, Obama put this big initiative together saying they wanted to put high-speed trains in the United States. Great idea, right? We need better transportation. We need a better transportation infrastructure. And that would put a lot of people to work, building tracks and that sort of thing, and allow people, you know, in the coastlines to actually get to central U.S. and vice versa very easily and quickly, and without having to deal with the airline crap. Well, he supposedly allotted $52 billion for this process.
Let me just real quick. A good point. The environmentalists ought to be behind this.
Yes.
Because these are electric trains. It would cut down on the pollution from airplanes, cars, diesel trains, all kinds of things. They ought to be behind this, supporting it. Everyone ought to be supporting this. Whether you're a conservative or a progressive, I don't want to call them liberals because that's not the true meaning of the word. They're progressives. Or socialists would be better, is what they are. We ought to start calling it what they are. They're socialists. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're a socialist, come out and say it. You know, there's nothing shameful about it. Some socialist programs are fine. We may need them. But, you know, get out there and stop calling yourself a liberal when you're not really. But that's later commentary. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Like, if you're a neo-Malthusian, tell everybody you're a neo-Malthusian.
Yeah.
Well, apparently this initiative, which is a great initiative, everybody should have been behind it, should have been working hard towards it. As I said, it would infuse actual work and money into the economy, which is desperately needed. It was doomed right when he announced it. Everybody is complaining about everything. Everybody's whining about everything. Of the $52 billion, apparently it's being used.
How much?
$52 billion.
$52 billion was allotted for this?
Yep. And Obama has basically used it as a political piggy bank. He distributes $500,000 to his supporters, and they don't accomplish anything with it. And now they've pretty much cut it off.
Well, I'd heard that one of the proposed, it was a section of train, I think, from Cleveland. I don't know where it ended, but when they finally evaluated it, one, there wouldn't be enough people to use it to make it pay for it, and secondly, you could drive there faster than the train could get you there.
Indeed, yes.
So,
they were talking about having high-speed trains. Now, according to the UK, a high-speed train is a train that goes faster than 130 miles per hour. Well,
I've been on one of those trains, by the way.
Really? How
Took
was
me
that?
from London to Glasgow, Scotland. 3 hours.
Nice. Well,
Very fast. Very fast.
The
Yes.
highest speed, there's a train planned in Wisconsin for this purpose, probably using part of the 500,000 that they got. And the fastest this train would go is 75. 75 miles per hour. As you said, you could drive there faster.
75 miles. Most people on the highway out here are doing 80.
Exactly.
You know, and that's during rush hour traffic. If they can get up to 80, they're doing 80. Everyone's doing 80.
Yep.
You know.
And this apparently is the top speed for that particular planned train. And that's only during a rural segment of the train. So its entire route, only a portion of it was going to actually be going 75 miles an hour. The rest of it a lot slower.
Well, I understand that where they really need it. And I used to drive from San Francisco to L.A. Occasionally. And it's a 8 to 12-hour trip, depending on the traffic. They need these high-speed trains going from Los Angeles to San Diego and up to San Francisco. And there's the NIMBY factor, not in my backyard. The people in Palo Alto and the coastline, Carmel up in northern, where the really wealthy people live, the trains are going to have to go near their property simply, and they don't want that.
And that really surprises me. I'm gonna act a little classist here, but they do hire a lot of maids and butlers and that sort of thing, and you would think they'd want. I'm thinking back to that movie we watched the other month. You'd think they'd want an easy way and a cheap way to get cheaper labor. And transportation is one of the major factors in getting labor. I mean, think of many of the problems that could be solved by a transportation system like this. You wouldn't have parking lots full of thousands of cars for one factory. You'd have a nice little train station right there, a nice little stop. Everybody jumps on the train, go to work, jump off. A lot less pollution, a lot less cars involved, a lot less gas spent. They are able to spend less money on fuel and transportation, which means more money in their pocket, which means more money for food and all of that.
And here's another factor. You get greater productivity out of the people who use the train because they would have less stress. They wouldn't spend an hour and a half or 2 hours fighting traffic and being stressed out before they ever get to work.
Yes.
You would get greater productivity, less downtime. There are all kinds of advantages that we would have. But again, both the Congress and the administration have managed to, and it's equal blame here,
Oh, indeed.
Equal blame.
Democrats seem to be putting up these horrible routes, and the Republicans are voting them all down. So, yeah, it's both sides of the aisle here.
I was actually up in San Francisco a few months ago, and I think that would be, I think a lot of people have to work there who really don't want to live there, and that could be a way out of it.
Well, this is just, and this would create so many jobs and improve our quality of life in this country. I cannot believe that we are supposed to be the premier nation of the world, and we don't have a decent transportation system. What nationwide?
Agreed.
You can go anywhere in Europe on the train, and it is a comfortable, pleasant experience.
Yeah, you can even go across to Russia, can't you? From Moscow to Vladivostok.
I've never done that, but that'd be a fun trip to take Moscow to Vladivostok on the train.
Yeah.
Well, no,
it takes a couple of days, but it's an enjoyable trip.
For Americans, we get the luxury of paying way too much for a tiny seat on an airplane that sits on the tarmac for 8 hours.
Well, here's another factor. If you get people on those trains, watch the price of gas fall when we're not filling up our tanks so often.
Exactly.
So there's another issue.
Oh, there's another party that's against setting up a transportation system like this.
Yeah. So there's, but this is really absurd that we're not doing this. We should all be contacting our congressmen and our senators and telling them we want a national transportation system. We want mag-lift, high-speed trains.
Oh, and speaking of contacting your congressman, I do want to make a tiny little announcement, a little development I'm working on. That's going to go along. Of course, I'm really technical, and if anybody's seen my blog, you know I'm also into programming and that sort of thing. Well, Windows 8 is about to be released. It's just been released for developer preview, and I am working on a little application that goes right along the lines of this show. It's a House of Representatives application, which will give you instant information about your representative for your state in your section of that state. It will give you statistics on that person, what they voted for, what they haven't voted for, how often they've shown up for work. You know, David was mentioning that earlier today that, you know, there's 2 votes that occur in Congress. One in the morning, one in the afternoon. Now, keep in mind, he also mentioned that, you know, they don't have to be at work until noon. Now, granted, that's noon on the East Coast, which would put it at a decent time on the West Coast. I mean, come on. Noon, that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4.
It'd be 9 o'clock in the morning
exactly.
on the West Coast. 9
o'clock in the morning, they get to show up at noon on the East Coast. And more than half of them don't even show up to do their job that we've elected them to do. Well, this application will keep track of those stats, and it'll give you easy access to their email addresses, their Twitter accounts, their phone numbers, and their mailing addresses.
Well, you're not only going to provide if they show up for the vote, but how they voted.
Exactly.
So we'll know what they instantly what they voted on those issues. I'm really looking forward to that.
What I feel
thought
is
that was good.
Important for us, and this is the main theme of the show, is knowing exactly what your politicians and what's going on in the world around you. And when you're sitting there in the voting booth, the only thing you can think back and remember about your congressman or the person that's on the ballot is, well, you remember their last commercial, if it was funny or not. Well, who cares about any of that? We need to know more information. So this application will actually run on your phone or on a tablet or something that you can have right there in the voting booth with you and pull it up and find out exactly the record of this person who's running for office. But that's enough for my beta rant. I'm entering it into a contest in January for hopefully the Microsoft App Store.
Now, Daniel let me look at a little bit of a preview of what he's been working on. It looks very, very exciting. It'll be an interesting application, and it can be used on the iPhone or on the computer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But the idea is to get the information right in your hands, which is exactly what
Which is what people need. Yes. People need to know, and we need to start holding these people accountable. Even if they don't perform, get rid of them. You know. So.
Well, the next election is going to be very interesting.
Well, we're down to about 6 minutes, 15 seconds. We have to do our Decline to the West segment. This week, our nominee is Kendra Wilkinson. I have to tell you about this. I had to do some research on her. I could not find, Daniel had to finally find a picture for me. I could not access one on Google. It kept telling me that it was blocking it because it was obscene material. So that ought to tell you something. Now, I understand this girl, she was the girlfriend of Hugh Hefner, right? And this is her claim to fame, right? So I think we've got a little bit of a clip to play here. We have her photograph up here. Look at this. You know, you feel like running up to her, you know, excuse me, honey, do you know you got a titty hanging out? You know, I mean, good Lord. Okay, why don't we go ahead and...
Hi, my name is Shauna.
Kendra,
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so I see you're dirty here. What happened?
Dirty?
Yeah, like you fell down or rolled into something.
I probably just leaned up against the car.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I like being dirty though, so.
That's a blonde thing, I think.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So, are you competitive? Are you trying to win this?
Oh, you know, I'm not trying to win. I'm just trying to finish,
Okay.
but I'm not gonna lose. Okay, that's the main thing. I'm not gonna lose,
Right.
but I'm not gonna win. I just want to finish like safe.
Okay. What kind of car do you drive at home?
I drive a Cadillac Escalade
You do?
on 24s.
Oh, how funny.
Believe me, I raised that too. I'm just kidding.
Speeding tickets?
No, actually, no. I just, I flirt with the cops when they were about to pull me over. Please, please.
Excuse me, don't you know who I am?
Oh no, I was speeding like 100 one time. This cop comes up next to me, and I'm like, I put on this saddest face, and I was like, please, and he goes,
And that was it?
yeah, that was it.
Okay. How was
Well, there it is. I just.
And she's
Hello,
one
citizens of the world.
the original
We are anonymous Senate.
reality show.
She's apparently she has written a book. I'm sure it's a picture book.
Yeah.
Uh,
We didn't even know she could read.
yeah, the book is called Being Kendra. Apparently her next book signing will be next Friday, December the 16th, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Barnes & Noble in Long Beach, 7651 Carson Boulevard in Long Beach, California.
Well,
So I'm sure it'll be, for all you men between the ages of 40 and 60 who have nothing to do.
well,
Those of you that received the penis pump.
Yes, if you can't go, this week, go to Medicare, get your penis pump, and go get your Being Kendra.
well, Kendra is definitely one of those people that would qualify for the decline of the West. However, we got to make sure that everybody is aware that the decline of West is not necessarily people that are dumb. Kendra's actually a smart girl. The decline of the West is all about people who have fame that didn't earn or do anything for it.
Well, let me tell you what Decline of the West is really about. It's not about the person that we choose. They are reflective of the decline. It's about us. Why do we celebrate these people? Why have we collapsed to the point that we give these people celebrity? We give this woman celebrity because she slept with Hugh Hefner. That's it.
Yep.
That's
it. I think you summed this up nicely.
It's not about her. It's not about Snooki. They're amusing, fine, but it's about us. It's to make us reflect on why have we sunk to this point. Why has our culture become what it's become? Because they're only reflections of us.
Because of course she couldn't be a celebrity if no one bought the book.
Yes.
No one watched the shows.
It's not. I'm not trying to pick on her or demean her as an individual. She's taking advantage of our stupidity. She's got some intelligence, or at least her agent does, and knows how to take advantage of the schmucks who buy this stuff and watch this stuff. So it's about us. It's not about Kendra or Snooki.
Yep, they're definitely reflections on us, and
Just incredible. Two brief remembrances today. One of them is Harry Morgan, Colonel Potter, on MASH, passed away today. And we'd all like you, if you are inclined to pray, to offer a prayer for him or send some positive thoughts and feelings toward his family at this time of loss. Whose birthday were we supposed to be remembering? Eric?
Yeah, well, we all grew up with Harry Morgan, both on Dragnet and MASH.
Yeah. Whose birthday were we going to? Do you remember? You mentioned it to me. Someone had a birthday today.
Oh, Kirk Douglas.
Kirk Douglas, yes. We wish Kirk Douglas a happy birthday. Two people of fine achievement.
Yes.
Fine achievement. Very good actors. Contributed greatly to the culture of the country. So we want to remember the passing of Harry Morgan, and we want to wish Kirk Douglas a happy birthday. So that is it for today. For Week in Review, we'd like to remind you, if you're viewing us and you have comments, criticisms, if you have a subject you'd like us to discuss or consider, please tweet us at WIRTV, that's our hashtag, or email David, Eric, or Daniel at weekinreview.tv. Well, we thank you. We'll see you next week, and we hope that you have a pleasant and good week ahead. I'm David Smith, and this is Week in Review.
Scientists located an Earth-like planet in another solar system. I guess misery loves company.